sometimes when they talk, I'm just done, I'm done. Like when they'll tell me that, oh, the finance bill is this, oh, the finance bill that, oh, the finance bill will help. Help what? There's a girl without a pad right now as we're talking right now. There's a girl without school. Like there's a girl walking barefoot. There's a man, there's a boy looking to be a pilot. He doesn't have a future. So please, if you're talking about corruption, let it start. Like what we're talking about here is not propaganda. Please actualize it. All those people who are in government, please actualize it. And I had one speech as I conclude. There's a speech that said that if you cheat in exam, you're likely to steal money. And then I asked my colleague over here, who's sitting next to me, it's okay, if I cheat in exam, okay, maybe I might or not. But we have people in government who have never stepped foot in school, and they are stealing billions of money. They are stealing billions of money. And a good example is the former Cabinet Secretary of Health, Nakumincha.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynette. And Lynette, the things you're saying are very valid, so do not apologize. Yeah, what you're saying is very valid, so don't apologize.
Hey everyone. My name is Ted, former president of Strathmore University, and the mentor to the young boys you're seeing up there. So proud of them. Also shout out to Tracy for giving me this opportunity. Tracy, thank you so much. I think my comment would be, and feedback would just be as follows. We talked so much about how we can fight corruption and how we can make life better, but from our end, we feel like the fight is more difficult because we've not seen anyone incarcerated. Name one person who was corrupt and has gone to jail. And that will now be at least proof. I think Kenya needs to get to a point where we call ourselves out, and the generation that we are in right now, we just need to face the hard realities. The reason why we are struggling right now is because we are seeing the culture ingrained and we've become absorbed into the culture. My encouragement is that we try and break the shift. So in your own spaces, try and do something different. I coach these guys to sort of give them an upper hand and to give them some benefits to understand that life is not bleak and you can fight for whatever you believe in. But even you guys in your organizations, all the organizations here that are trying to fight corruption, I think it's high time we stop the politicization of incarcerations or naming people in corrupt scandals. I think we just need to put a few individuals in handcuffs for once, and that will motivate the conversations that we have right now. So I think integrity starts with me, integrity starts with you, but we can't wait for the youth to start fighting when our parents are still the ones holding the jobs. So our parents need to clean their mess as we also come in to, arrange the dishes in the kabati. So we can't blame ourselves fully and say we are powerless, but at the same time, even you guys sitting up there need to also call out the individuals, because it's not like we don't know who's stealing money. Everyone keeps saying there are a few individuals stealing money. Name them, put them in cells, and let's stop causing the problems. When I can't afford medical care because someone has stolen money, it hurts me. So my challenge to all the bodies here, all of them, ESCC and all organizations, is let's not start with the probings and the namings. Yeah. Let's start with the probings and namings, but also get to a point where we get the justice and these people actually are punished for their crimes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ted. And you say something really important. We know the people who engage in corruption. Some we do not know, but we've not seen people go to jail to pay for the price of that. A few weeks ago, there was a cabinet minister in the government of Singapore who was taken to jail for more than 5 years simply because he was paid for to attend a sports event. That is not allowed in their law, in their country, and he went to jail. He wanted to repay the ticket, but it wasn't allowed. And for us, we know we've lost a lot of money at the county level, national level, all over. Not to put you on the spot, Solomon, but I wonder, what can you say, ESCC?
I just basically love that discussion. Why I love that is because you're raising pertinent questions, but the gap is, where do we come in? I love what my colleague talked about, putting guys in. I'll tell you one thing. Kenya has one of the best laws and regulations in this part of the world. For those in school, there is a disconnect between legal and ethical requirements. Our current justice system, if you have the money, it will be too difficult to put you in tomorrow, even if I found you or you found me with $1 billion shillings today. There's a guy we got with 4 million shillings cash. When we asked him, he said he sold land. Who sells land and you're paid in cash? So where do you come in as young people? I love that energy, but you need to know where the problem is. Where should your advocacy be focused on? Changing the government, the governance instruments. Advocate for change of law, not for incarceration. Because I can't, if you got me having stolen, you can't take me from my house right to committee. There has to be a justice process. That is the reality. And for you to change that, it requires strong, consistent, informed decisions. As a commission, I invite you to find time, if you do, go to our website, look at a few issues that you're saying we've not done this and that, see where we've made achievements. I'll be ready to give you my number. Be ready to challenge me. The progress is slow. It's not up to our expectations. We could have done better. But I'll not want guy to lose hope. Every step that the commission makes, I believe, with a very strong backing from the multitudes of you, we are able to change Kenya. Allow me to humbly repeat this. If you and I are sitting here waiting for government and government institutions to make a change for you, forget it. Governments and public agencies are constantly pushed to make changes. Your observations are right, but we need to know where the rubber meets the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Solomon. So the lady in white was really vehemently trying to say something. Can your mic work?
I think the mic works. Thank you.
You can use this other one. Okay, I hope in like 60 seconds.
Okay, I'll try. My name is Tatiana Gishero. I'm from the Kenya Ni Mimi campaign, and please, if you find me after this, let's have a word about what we do at Kenya Ni Mimi. But I just have a few comments that are just burning.
One comment, please, because of time. We need to be out of this place in the next 5 minutes.
First and foremost, we've been told about how corruption starts with us. And as young people, we are very vulnerable towards engaging with corruption. I think Mr. Solomon said that young people, we want the V8 and we want it today, and for that reason we are more likely to engage in crime. I have to strongly disagree with that. Young people need to hold on to every opportunity that we get so that we can have stability for ourselves. We don't have the luxury of, stealing or joking around in any opportunities that we get, because effectively we don't have any opportunities, first and foremost. The other thing I'd like to comment on is we need to address the root cause of what is making young people go into corruption anyway. So when you say the problem is not at the top, I have to disagree with you. You, Solomon, talked about setting examples about it paying to be ethical. But a young man asked us very clearly, what incentive do we have to be ethical? We don't. All the money is in corruption. All the money is in engaging in these things. So what examples do we have to go with? And the last thing was about advocacy, that we need to advocate. And you asked, our moderator rightfully asked, where's the disconnect? We have so many young leaders but no impact, because we are all doing advocacy when we should be in the decision-making rooms. We should be making the decisions. We should be members of government. We should be elected officials who have real power, not always just running into the streets and engaging in advocacy. How can we engage the majority of the population in a way that really matters? That's the questions we need to be asking.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you so much. Now I can see some people are now standing, like we want to say something. So you know, there's another session, you know, that... Okay, and unless you agree that you will do lunch in 30 minutes. Okay, so then, okay, so the lady who's, okay, so do you promise you will take 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay, then come here. 1 minute. No, okay, so yourself and okay. So. 1 minute, and the panelists, please prepare your parting shot. Please prepare your parting shot. Who has the mic? The other mic? Who's our timekeeper? 60 seconds. Nani anatusaidia kuweka time? Yourself. Thank you so much. Okay, you go first.
Hi, my name is Wawira from the University of Nairobi.
And when you go beyond 60 seconds, I stop you. Yeah.
I only have one question to Solomon. The EACC gathers information on corruption occurring in governments and in public sectors. But today we have seen Oscar Sudi and Murkomen being banned from the US. So the question is your commission really working, or is it a decorative commission in this country?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Silence.
I have an answer to that. Come, let me answer.
Without apology, Mr. Solomon, you cannot tell us that we have a commission that fights corruption and they cannot do anything for us. You cannot tell us our leaders who are corrupt cannot be done anything. This is the work of the commission to ensure they are punished enough. They are given bails, which they are not supposed to. They're just supposed to be taken to jail directly with no bail. That's what should be dealt with people who are corrupt.
I strongly agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello. Hello. As we raise these questions, let's also ask ourselves what we are doing in our own spaces, in our families, in our learning institutions, in the spaces we are in.
A lot.
Comrades power. Comrades
A lot.
power.
Very much
First
a
of
lot.
all, I feel very offended by someone who is being paid from the taxpayers' money of these people, saying that we have no right to be questioning the government. We should not be waiting for
I strongly agree with you.
offices, because you have the mandate to curb this corruption. There is evidence all over. They write even in our gazettes all over and tell us that this person, Governor Sakaja, he was the most corrupt, stealing over 50 million, but you still tell us that there is nothing you can do. I mean, if you're incapacitated, sorry to say, but you can quit the job and let these young people do the work.
Yes. I strongly agree with you, madam. I strongly agree with you.
Hello, my fellow generations. Yes, so mine, you know, the more we are
Let's
talking...
listen, guys. One meeting. Yes, please.
The more we are getting to talk and relate with each other, the more questions we raise. So I definitely do have more questions to raise, and my questions wouldn't wait for another session. But the more we continue to raise, I feel like we are also failing to understand why we are here. Faisal, we began I remember when we were in the room as 20 members while we were launching the EAN last year. We were about 20 or 50. Not the launch. Okay, before the launch, the consultating meeting. We were very few. And when we came here, we had the same, you see all that energy that we are giving, that is the same energy we had when we were just the 20 of us in that consultative meeting before we planned for the launch. And then we did the launch. When we did the launch, this same energy was here. Now we have brought the same energy back here. So since last year, this is my challenge to you, Diana, Faisal, everyone in the UNODC, the EACC, and the EAN. Where have we really engaged the youth? Because that is what we are here to do. I don't think, and I don't feel like we have really engaged all of us here, because we had even visions of doing partnerships. We had even visions of engaging youth to do jobs, even exchange programs. Where are all of these so that we can actually actualize the ethics and ambassadors network in Kenya?
You raise critical questions. Thank you so much.
Take 2 seconds.
2 seconds, okay.
Yes. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to air out. There's something that she raised, and I think everybody's like, no. I work with a grassroots organization. I'm a founder. My name is Mariam. He did not say that you don't ask questions. Let's try to understand. He said, let's use the right channels. He just clearly said, you just can't wake up and arrest him. Let's use the law. He did not say, I'm just trying to, I think there was a miscommunication there. Let's not be too wild to just answer and everything. We have frustrations, we are the youth, we feel we have failed, but let's try to understand, because he's here to hear us. But if we are just ranting and not even trying to understand his way of reasoning, we won't get anywhere.
You said your name is?
Mariam.
Wow, Mariam. You see, oh, okay. Yes. In 1 minute.
I'm a father of a Gen Z. So I hear the disappointment in your tones, in your heart. I resonate. I have younger guys in the office, like you. I want to apologize for anybody that felt you should not question government. No. I only made a comment. Don't allow government to give you the space. Take the space. Consistently, objectively, and from a point of knowledge. For my sister that said, we need to directly take them from their houses to committee. Unfortunately, EACC does not make the law in Kenya. The people that you and I voted for make the law. You've heard something? All channels of justice must be. And that is why in Kakamega, a guy shot a fellow, he was still elected, and he was in parliament, because you've got to go through all the justice process. If you caught me in a corruption case, that umepata 2 billion under my bed, there is no way, there's no law in the land that says EACC should take you to committee ndani. That is not our law, colleagues. So friends, I hear you, but I invoke you. Please engage. You are knowledgeable guys. Engage with understanding, consistently, objectively. Don't be pushovers, but ensure that any time you raise issues is based on facts, based on the law. And don't ask me or any other fellow to do an illegality. It can't work. Last but not least, I know time. EACC, like the case of Sudi and other things, that could be a criminal case. The only thing the law of the land allows the commission to do, allow me to use the two. If I got an issue about you, there's a responsible government agency. I can only advise that this lady and this gentleman, this government agency, are involved in 1, 2, or 3. From our investigations, I can't force a government agency to refuse them. And that is what we did in 2022 and 2017. That is our law. So where do we come? Kindly advocate vigorously for change where you think the law is weak to address our issues. You got the power.
Thank you. Thank you, Solomon. Now I come to the panelists. Please, your parting shot in one statement, one sentence, one short sentence. Your parting shot. Words to let us go with, but words to inspire us as well, or a challenge to us. Stella?
Let's make use of social media and our votes. Social media and our votes. Not social media only.
Thank you, Stella. Social media and votes. Diana?
Okay, so my last call to action to all of us here, like I understand the frustrations that we all have, especially with the protests that have been happening, leading to young people being killed and abducted. But we need to continue having these conversations because they ignite change. And like Nelson Mandela said, it's in our hands to make a better world for all who live in it. So that's my parting shot.
Thank you very much. Faisal?
Mine will be a food of thought. Corruption is not the problem. The problem is lack of development. Case study, development of Celtel by Mo Ibrahim and eradication of corruption in telecommunication industry. A challenge to you guys.
Thank you, Faisal. Fidel?
Okay, mine is a short one. It's just we cannot possibly give up. I know it looks extremely difficult, yeah, for us to fight this issue, deal with this issue, but it's been done before. Well, at least I hope it's been done before. And it's something that we can do if we just continue to fight, continue to push, and just don't give up. Yeah, that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Fidel. Gloria? Okay. Tracy?
Mine is just to say that change cannot take place in a vacuum. So there's somewhere that it has to begin from, yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. Emmanuel?
So I'd like to reiterate the words of Solomon. Let's be the change we want to see. But how do we do that? Let us find ourselves. And I think that's the most important thing. At the point in time when we find ourselves, then we can be the change of morality we want to see in society. So guys, I challenge you, let's find ourselves.
And one of the greatest things in this life for any leader is to find yourself. Self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools for change in the world. So Emmanuel, thank you so much. We need to find ourselves because sometimes there's a void within and we feel like the more we amass, when I show that car, when I show that house, when I show this and that I feel worthy, that I'm worthy. But we are worthy just as we are. Nothing external of us adds to who we are. So let's find ourselves. Gloria?
To pick up from where Solomon left, in spite and despite of our advocacy, we need to plug into process. That's the only way to bring meaningful change. Unfortunately, these things work a certain type of way. Legislation goes to Parliament. Solomon can recommend prosecution, but it's only the DPP that can prosecute. There is a process. So the Youth Council is here for that purpose, to be your voice and your advocate in every room possible. Talk to us. Engage with us. We are here, and I'll stand up for this. And we are here for the sole purpose of amplifying your voice. The sole purpose. Talk to the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gloria. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for that wonderful session. And we leave with many questions, many answers, but I would like to challenge us to leave reflecting. Let us reflect. How can we be the change we want to see? The change we are waiting to see, to have somebody else bring, We are that change. We are the ones we are waiting for. So can we leave that out? Let's find ourselves, like Emmanuel said, and then let's be the change we want to see. Please, let's just appreciate ourselves for the wonderful session we've had. Thank you very much. And now I wish to invite Jennifer to give us guidance on lunch and the next sessions. Thank you so much.
Wow, wow. Round of applause for Karen, please. I have no doubt you do a very good job in terms of leading the young people through ELF. So, quick one, lunch. You all agreed to do 30 minutes. So, can we agree to be back here by 2:10, please? Perfect. So, lunch is served down here. You'll see some white tents. So that's for you. Like I said, you're guests of honor. So go enjoy your lunch, interact, network. Don't just speak to the people you know. Please speak to people from other schools and other organizations. Continue this conversation. We'll pick up from where we left, and we'll be talking about the use of digital tools. And we have a very wonderful panel for you waiting. And then we'll proceed to develop. And this is a very critical process to develop our youth proposal. This proposal will be presented on 9th during the national commemoration of International Anti-Corruption Day. So make sure that your voice is represented. Sawa sawa. Have a wonderful lunch.
Thank you.
Watu wanakimbia bana. Si wewe.
Kitu mbona iongei? Sasa itaongea kwa mtu wako hivi mpaka uiconvert.
He's an agile legal professional based in Kenya, bringing a wealth of experience from both public and private law practice. He's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, currently specializing in the design and implementation of criminal justice and digital transformation projects. He leverages his subject matter knowledge and expertise to provide technical advisory services across various thematic areas, including the rule of law, security, justice, human rights, and people-centered digitalization. He's currently pursuing an LLM in international criminal justice, harnessing his skills in various areas, including transnational justice, international criminal law procedure, organized crime and corruption, international cooperation mechanisms, and so on and so forth. Welcome, Mr. William. Round of applause for William. As you can see, young people are doing so much and are already making quite a lot of impact in the space. Next, we have Mr. Sirungai Alan Kakai from Blockchain Stakeholders Committee in Kenya. I met Mr. Kakai when we were discussing a potential cryptocurrency bill. And I know he is one of the young people really doing a lot of work in that space. So he's a distinguished legal expert with a focus on blockchain innovation governance. He has played a pivotal role in drafting local blockchain innovation policies, influencing development of regulatory frameworks that support the adoption of growth of blockchain technology. His work in this area ensures that emerging technologies are implemented in compliance with legal standards and governing principles. As a patron of the Web3 Club Foundation, a leading blockchain development studio, Kai supports the training and development of students and professionals in the blockchain space. So if you're interested in this particular space, he is the person to see. The foundation is committed to building innovative blockchain tools, smart contracts, and decentralized solutions that enable transparency, accountability, and governance. Now, through his patronage, he contributes to nurturing talent and fostering practical blockchain applications that address governance challenges. In addition to his local efforts, Mr. Kakai has also provided consulting services to global decentralization autonomous organizations, DAOs, offering his expertise in the governance of blockchain and decentralized technologies. He advises on establishing and refining governance structures that empower communities, ensure decentralization, and promote integrity and sustainability of blockchain-based programs. Wow. Such a mouthful. Round of applause for Mr. Kai. Our other panelist is Mr. Edward Kipkalia. And Mr. Edward Kipkalia will be telling you more about himself, but he hails from the Emerging Leaders Foundation. Where are you, ELF? Amazing. Amazing. He'll be telling you about himself. But maybe, I think you have the mic. We can start right from the extreme end where we have William. No, sorry, I'd like to start with Mr. Kai because he will be stepping aside shortly and coming back to join the discussion. As you introduce yourself, I know I've already offered the formal introduction. Maybe just share with us some examples, of course, after clarifying what you're doing in the space at the moment, and what are the trends, emerging trends with regards to digitalization and corruption. You can share with us some of the examples of some of the Web3 technologies and how they've successfully, or they could successfully drive transparency and accountability. Over to you, Kai.
Hi guys, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Kakai, as Jennifer has introduced me, and I have an extensive background in blockchain and Web3 technology. And yeah, so straight to your question on examples of possible solutions of blockchain technology that can be used to enhance governance, accountability, and transparency. I'll just take one or two, then I'll let my colleague Gilbert also highlight more. So one key example I can shoot is, for instance, in Kenya, the biggest, one of the biggest historical corruption injustices are land fraud and land scams. So we've have several solutions of people proposing to build digitized solution on blockchain for land transactions, land transfer. And this is very important because blockchain records are immutable in the sense that somebody will not wake up one morning and tell you, oh, all the title deeds have disappeared at the land registry. Because of that technology, all of it can be recovered. But one of the biggest challenges we have witnessed in terms of implementing such very awesome, very transparent tech solutions is because they need some form of approval from someone. So even when there was a proposal to take the whole land registry on the blockchain, the proposal had to go through Parliament. And of course, you all know what happens when such a very awesome proposal goes through Parliament. It was shut down. So this just shows that as much as we have these very awesome tech tools, sometimes the barriers to entry are not really in the tech tools, but are in the adoption and the implementation of some of these. So the counter to that is a permissionless way of doing things. And I think we saw this during the Gen Z protests, when all of a sudden, guys did not rely on Parliament for public participation, but they started rolling out, for instance, their own GPTs of the Finance Bill 2023 and started self-education and guys developed portals for them to report progress on promises that have not been made and report progress on MPs that are not performing. So that kind of permissionless, decentralized way of mass education is what we actively need. So the biggest challenge, just reflecting on Solomon's point earlier on, is that yes, the tech is there, but implementing it will need some genius level of acting outside the system for us to go through, for some of these things to go through. So above and beyond land registries on the blockchain, we've also seen, for instance, voting systems. Like, and one difference between blockchain and Web 2 is this traceability. The fact that all this data on-chain can be audited and traced to the very end. So the moment, for instance, we take a voting system, which is also one of the biggest corruption hotbeds is voting. The moment we take our voting systems on-chain, it really goes a long way in promoting transparency and accountability. But still we go back to the same challenge whereby for me to get IEBC to adopt a blockchain-based voting system, I have to take a law to Parliament and get parliamentarians to approve it. We are talking about the same people who right now, as we are discussing, are trying to amend a law for us not to see live data being transmission by IEBC. So it becomes a question on, is it a value thing or is it a technology thing? Because technology can also only solve too much as long as our values are not aligned and people don't have good faith in adopting some of these technologies. We end up in a situation like a snake that eats its own tail, whereby we have the tech, but it just can't pass. And one thing I will reemphasize now, the beauty about blockchain is we can find ways of implementing technology without taking them through permissioned system. So for instance, I think we were discussing in Basel some time ago. For instance, let's say Parliament decides to shut down, this law successfully passes and all of a sudden IEBC is not transmitting results live. Nothing stops the youth from having an independent system whereby if I go and cast my vote, I go and log into this bot or this space and also make an entry. So that for every vote you've casted on the ballot, you have this decentralized independent system that is free from interference, that can double check what you've entered. The reason why we love blockchain so much is the aspect of decentralization. Decentralization means it's free from control of anyone. Because the moment a system is centralized, it means there's somebody who is paying for that system to run. So that person who is paying for that system to run can run an instruction for a server to be shut down or for a server not to be opened. But if a system is decentralized and accessible to anyone, then citizens can publicly make entries and verify data without being at the mercy of any one person who can either turn on or shut down the system. So those are two examples, but I think Basil can add. Yeah, you could. Awesome.
Thank you. Round of applause. That seems to notify that a lot of the people have understood what you've said. Even though it's a lot of tech jargon, but I think with young people, especially the Gen Z generation here, this is something that is very common to you. Thank you for raising the issues of human barriers with regards to implementation of some of the blockchain strategies. I know you've mentioned the young parliamentarians, and I can confirm I asked Ken Babu to stay for this very reason, because there'll be some questions coming to you. I know there's been some traction or some attempts at parliamentary level in terms of regulating this space. Maybe we will have that discussion as well. But moving on to our ELF colleague, when we talk about the issues of or these tools being, a very good strategy for independence of the youth, and we've seen this, especially during the Gen Z protests. We saw young people coming up very strongly, using the tools they know, social media, to actually advocate for accountability, to mobilize, and so on and so forth. What are some of these strategies to ensure that we sustain the same energy and the same efforts that were led sometime in June, July? I know you've engaged, especially through the foundation, a lot of young people who do this. Over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, great young people of Kenya. My name is Edward Kipkalia, the current Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships Officer at Emerging Leaders Foundation Africa, where we build the capacity of young people on matters leadership, development and mentorship, governance and civic engagement, as well as economic empowerment. I'm very passionate about leadership, governance and technology. And as the question was being asked to me, allow me to use. Yes, so as the question was being asked to me, there are two fundamental truths that I will want to all of us to understand. One is that technology is not a magical weapon, that it can just be disposed to solve all our problems. We've seen this a lot happening. When we talk about anti-corruption, one of the key things that everyone keeps saying is use technology. It's not a magical weapon. The second truth is that if you look at technology, it is not a replacement to our human integrity and our social responsibility. No matter how much we try to innovate using technology, let us understand that it is not a replacement to our human integrity and our social responsibility. And so as we continue to use these tools, the question that you should be asking yourself every time you interact with technology is, what is your intention? What do you intend to use that technology to do? Because your intention is the determining factor to how you're going to utilize that technology. And we've seen this a lot during what has been said here a lot about the Gen Z protest. That what is the intention of the young people towards that technology? Because your intention is very important, and that intention leads to your action. Your action leads to your habit, and your habit leads to becoming the person who you are, and that determines your level of utilizing that technology. And so one of the tools that we need to be very aware of and how we can sustain that digital technology is being very aware of our intentions. There is no magical weapon, because a lot of time when we talk about innovation, people think about something bigger. Right now, as we talk about Gen Z protest that happened, everyone is trying to look at what is that one big tool that I can come up with that can help sustain change in the community. Where else that is important, it is not the necessity towards ensuring that sustainable change, because one of the things that we should be aware is that innovation needs to be in your mindset. It's how you can do something better, and it doesn't need to be very big technological solutions that you can sustain in your community. And so that mindset is very important. Secondly, is building a community that rally beyond that call, which essentially points towards the objective of us as young people, towards what is our intention towards pursuing that mission that we want to pursue with technology. And so our mindset is very important. What we consume is very important. How we choose to use that technology is also very important. And that is a very key determining factor towards ensuring that we utilize this technology towards a sustainable, strategic future that we want to see.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kapkalia, for reminding us that we are the fourth industrial revolution generation, and it's up to us to decide how that will benefit this continent. Noting as well that this is the most youthful continent in the world, which has great impact when it comes to the use of digital technologies in this day and age. Now allow me to, as we excuse Mr. Kakai, but allow me to jump over to William. Maybe just give us a brief overview of some of the digitalization strategies that UNODC has engaged, the youth, but also with government counterparts, where that is going, and what are some of the key lessons they can pick, or rather the youth can pick from the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. You'll allow me to please just echo a bit what some of my previous speakers have said around awareness of our intentions. And just before we went for lunch, the environment, the atmosphere was quite eclectic. People were injecting, watu walikanyaga shingo. And I think after eating lunch, it's only befitting that we keep up that atmosphere so that it's not another situation of, bora wameshiba wana maneno. So, some things that I picked up earlier during the day about our perceptions and what some of the values that we here collectively share. I liked that someone said they did not commit or they did not engage in corruption because of their conscience. And then this same issue of conscience echoed around the room, and I realized then maybe there's a collective conscience that we all share. Then I had someone mention they represent Kenya ni mimi. We all know the slogan Kenya ni home. And based on the discussions earlier today, we had someone say, or rather I can clearly see that we as young people here are standing on business, that we really want to make a change. We are committed, we have the zeal, we have the passion. And I dare say, moving out of here, perhaps it's safe to say that we're also standing on integrity, right? That we have those values, that we want to make a change, and we want to do what's necessary. So in terms of tech and what's happening, we hear a lot about people-centered digitalization and trying to have tech reforms that focus on people. And that's the basic trajectory that we've been seeing the government taking. We've seen the digitization of public services, e-citizen, in the justice system where we have a bit of more view. We've seen also changes in the judiciary e-filing system. The ODPP have an e-filing system as well. And we're seeing that things are going digital. But what does that mean for us? It means two things. First, the word is transparency. But transparency how? Transparency in this sense, seeing as it's coming from government, downward transparency. That we are able to see government opening up its processes to the public. We're able to see public hearings virtually through Teams, and people were able to chant Ruto must go during an active case, Suffice to say that that's contempt of court, so please try not to do that again. But yes, we are seeing opportunities for the public to engage directly with government, and we are seeing that level of transparency. But this form of transparency evolves beyond just government automating. These tech tools are not only for government. As we've heard our colleagues say, the opportunities for us as young people. And I liked what Fidel said at the end, that let us not lose hope. let us apply ourselves, let us arm ourselves first of all with the necessary knowledge. And how do we do that? Well, we have all these open access portals that Francesco spoke about. We have the various portals that we can be able to access information. We've seen one of the activists online, Morara, doing it. He goes, reads the Auditor General's report, analyzes it, goes on site and confirms whether this has been done. We have a role as young people and we are seeing people doing it. It's only a matter of us engaging. Other ways, allow me to be a shameless plug. We've seen Transparency International come up with an app. It's called Action for Transparency. And what does that app help you to do? You can go on Google Play right now, look for it. If you see any case of corruption, if you see any case of bribery, you can report it on that app. And the EACC also have an anonymous reporting portal. If you see anything that you feel or that you consider as corruption, as a young person, you have an opportunity to bring change, to change this situation and to, call it out. So yes, there's room for that. There's room for us to engage. There's room for us to stand on integrity. That's what I'd say.
Wow. Round of applause for William. There's room for us to stand on integrity, and perhaps I'll press you further on the discussions you and I have been having on open source intelligence. And I know Morara is one case example, and there are many young people who do this, by the way, just in case there are people who don't like him here. There are many young people who've done this work, who've tried to follow the money, essentially, and try and see where the progress of certain projects being run by our government institutions. Is this something, as you're saying, is this something that perhaps the young people can innovate around? Is this data, accessible to young people, and how can we amplify this work? Because we've seen where this pressure has been applied, there has been some traction. And I felt very sad when somebody said, where is the incentive for me to be, not to be corrupt? The incentive is, it's all around you. Even if you buy that, as our CEO said, you buy that Range Rover, you step out of your house, there's a pothole. Yeah, you get a puncture. Or you try and get access to medical services and you're unable to do that. Education sector as well. So you can hide your corrupt proceeds, but you can't hide away from the impact of corruption. So thinking about that, how can we amplify? Because that for me was one of a very innovative strategy that we can use as young people to be an oversight sort of additional arm to what is happening in the country.
Yes, the people's arm. Of course, with due respect to the people's representatives. So open source intelligence is something that's been there for some time. As the word suggests, it's open, but intelligence makes it sound a bit serious, but really it's just information that we can access. Again, Auditor General's reports, any reports that are published online. So, okay, first, it requires us as young people to invest in understanding processes. We need to understand how, for example, the budget making process is done. We need to understand how the various documents are gazetted so that even as we go to follow the money, we can see where it started. When some people say that we are seeing harambes being given in church when it's not been budgeted for, that gives us something to look for. It means we can go to the budget appropriation statement and see, were there any allocations that were made to harambes? And then therefore we can come back and follow the money backwards and question. So basically what open source intelligence means is that we are collecting information that's publicly available. We are leveraging on what government is doing in trying to make information publicly accessible. We are analyzing this information and we are standing on integrity to call them out later on and say, in this statement, this is what was provided. A few years later, we are seeing a different situation on the ground. Kindly help us understand why this is not the scenario as was expected. Bwana Solomon from the EACC rightfully challenged us to play our role. That governments, we cannot sit back and wait for governments to do their thing. We have to push. And part of this pushing, aside from the protests, can also be done strategically. As our colleague was saying, we can gather strategic information, and that's why it's called intelligence, that is open. We can gather this strategic information, analyze it, and present it to the public, create awareness, create a critical mass of people who are able to call out their representatives and say, we need accountability for what has been published. This is information that is publicly available. This is what was expected to be done, and we need to see why it's not been done, and if there's a reason, we need to be made to understand. It also gives us an opportunity at the same time to be whistleblowers, and I know this is a very live discussion. It gives us an opportunity as young people to be whistleblowers, to come out and say, I have witnessed this, and provide that information to the public authorities who are tasked with enforcement, so that they can have a lead for purposes of further investigations. So it gives us an opportunity as youth, again, to stand on integrity, to be able to put our money where our mouth is, where our frustrations are. We can show it. We can go in, do the deep work, collect, analyze, present this information, and make a strong case. We have multiple avenues. I mean, if you look at people like Okiom Tata, he's been able to present so many court petitions, all based on publicly available information. So again, it's our chance, it's our opportunity to push back and to be able to provide the necessary accountability that we so clearly deserve and demand.
Wow, thank you so much. That's so clearly put. Again, we are the fourth industrial revolution generation. So most of you grew up understanding, or we grew up in the age of information, where information was easily accessible right at the click of a button. So we are able, or rather we ought to be able to use this to advocate for accountability, and so on and so forth. When it comes to strategies, and William, you've alluded to this, specific strategies for anti-corruption advocacy, I'd like to invite Madam Anne Mercy Wairimo. What has been your experience? You know, what has worked? What does not work? And what are some of the things we can do moving forward?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anne Mercy. I am the Kenya's UX Research Lead at Branch Microfinance Bank. Very passionate about tech and also good governance. So I'll jump straight to your question, what has worked? I think social media has worked. I feel social media advocacy has worked. And it's quite interesting because beyond EACC, we have other tools that have been created. For example, we have WikiLeaks. I don't know how many of us have visited that site. It has an account of all the corruption cases that have been captured by the system since 1978. And the figures there are very staggering. You'll actually get twice as angry as you are right now if you see the amount of money that is being leaked into the systems, right? Also, I want us to expand the scope of corruption. We're talking about money and resources. But we've been hearing about sex for grades. That's corruption. That's someone using their power to give you something you deserve, something you work for. Why do you have to sleep with someone to get a job, to actually get your grades, right? We've seen parents in schools being asked for money so that they can secure spots. And at what expense? Someone from a less privileged home and their spot in a proper school, and then we have a kid from a well-privileged family. They didn't earn their spot, they pay for that spot, and then what? We leave the other kid out there. They are struggling, they do not get proper education systems, and even the looting of public resources is part of why we have very broken system. Right now, if you are healthy, you must thank God, because the way the system right now is being structured, you are being set up to rest in peace even before your time comes, right? So if you look at the effects of corruption everywhere, and as someone said, they start at home. Unahonga prefect so that asikuandike kwa list ya noisemakers, right? So it's a systemic thing we've created, but we've narrowed it down into monetary things so that we do not take accountability of the roles that we ourselves are playing in terms of ensuring that we keep the corruption system going, right? So what has worked right now, going back to the question I was asked, I feel social media has worked. I've mentioned WikiLeaks. Cyprian Nyakundi, he's always doing anonymous stuff out here. Every day, he's exposing someone who is corrupt or who is robbing someone of dignity, because you being robbed dignity is also corruption, right? We've seen things like ChatGPT during the demonstrations. They worked perfectly. For the very first time, we had a way of ensuring there was accessibility and also that information was broken down in ways that people could understand. You could go to GPT, tell it to even describe what that bill means in Sheng. And that is important because one of the ways that we are kept behind in terms of fighting corruption is how information is structured. It's so complicated, sometimes you get lost in the process. Also, if you look at some countries like Lebanon, they've gone beyond the negative talk where we just report people who are taking money or taking bribes or misusing the system. They have what we call I am a good champion or I'm fighting corruption, and you highlight your story where you went to an office, name the office, what did they ask for, what did you reject. They also have something I find very interesting. Their drop boxes are designed in terms of cars, right? So you find the most corrupt office, kama Kenya Power. Munaeka hizo complaints zote, and then you park that vehicle outside there until the government does something about it. I think that's a very good system. It should be outside parliament. Inafaa kuko nje ya parliament. In fact, I would love Boni's idea. You remember he took coffins to the streets and people were asking why we have coffins. Those are very important advocacy tools, right? So such systems work. But then where are the gaps? Again, goes back to kila siku sisi ni advocates. Sai, we are in an advocacy space, right? But then there are gaps in these advocacy spaces. The tools we have, they are geared towards people who are very tech savvy, the young people. But if you look at the system, the people who suffer the most from corruption wako mashinani. So imagine telling your grandmother to use ChatGPT. Right? So utaitiwa kanisa utaombewa, because now that's uchawi to them. So we have gaps in terms of accessibility. We are only taking care of a very small section of people, whereas corruption is impacting every single one of us, including mtoto hajazaliwa. So why are we taking care of a specific section of people while leaving the rest out? So for example, when it comes to reporting these corruption cases, tumesema EACC, I know they have drop-in boxes. You can write a letter to them. You can write an email. You can go to Huduma centers to report. Again, you can do a lot of this stuff. But how many of us have that knowledge to actually do that, right? Two, someone said, report yalafu. It's okay we are reporting. It's okay we are whistleblowing. It's okay we are submitting that I went somewhere, I was asked for money, or I was asked for this in exchange for this. But then what happens to these culprits? We cannot keep reporting issues that do not get addressed. It's tiring. It's very disheartening. It's actually very demoralizing. Sioni why I should come tell a leader today, ABCD happened. They go do nothing about it. Tomorrow, the same thing. And even the cases that have been reported, we've seen them getting withdrawn. Who makes those choices to withdraw cases that have enough evidence to prosecute? Who makes those choices? And again, this is why we need to keep finyaing the government. Inject kabisa. Because you cannot just withdraw a case because someone is affiliated to you. These people are hurting us. They are not necessarily hurting the system. I find that very, very unfair. So some of the things that don't work is the government. Again, your lawmakers, our lawmakers. They have the time to sit in parliament for over 72 hours to impeach a whole deputy president, but not enough time to sit in the house and create policies that work for us, create policies that allow decentralized technologies so that we can audit them properly. They have the time to abduct us, but somehow they do not have the time to abduct people who are stealing from us. Makes zero sense. In fact, I think the biggest hindrance to us having a system of integrity is the government and how it approaches the whole policies, right? So what can we do? One, keep agitating, usichoke. You have to tire these people with agitations. It has to keep happening. Kanyanga shingo, endeni kwa MP wenu mwambie cheki tuliona budget inakaa hivi, iko wapi pesa, right? Elect people who are functional. I'll give you a very classic example of Murang'a County. Siwatetei, but when Irongo Kangata became governor, one of the things that was happening in Murang'a County, which happens to be my county, was there was a lot of loopholes in terms of collections of payments. So he came in, digitized everything, and you wouldn't believe the last financial year, he collected 1.1 billion Kenya shillings. That was twice what we did in 22-2023 financial year. And people in the system hate him for it. Because what would happen, you would go to county level 5. Mtu anakuambia cheki ukitaka kuingia huko, kufanyiwa x-ray, you have to pay like 5K. And then you go to the doctor. Before you see a doctor, you have to pay another 1K. So by the time you're leaving the hospital, you've actually left more money than where you went there in the first place. And because you're leaving more money, even drugs, hakuna, they stole, right? So him streamlining that was very important. So I believe one of the biggest ways we can actually start getting results is move beyond the advocacy and start punishing these people. Action things. Again, Kenya, very good at policies, creating stuff, but do we never move beyond that point? And also, keep holding the government accountable. There's only so much we can do when the systems keep holding us back. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Mercy. I think at this juncture, before I come back to the panel, are there any questions in the room? Yes, if I can have somebody assist me with the mic. I see a hand in this middle section. Second hand and third hand. Okay. I think let's start with the very first hand. Yes, madam.
Yes, thank you. My name is Paula Kimbo, once again from the Ethics Ambassadors Network of Strathmore University. So my question is, what's our... Yes, thank you. My question is, what is our panelists' take on e-governance? Because we've seen it work for Estonia in terms of reducing corruption and effectiveness of service delivery to the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think number 2 was here. E-governance, I think, William, you can take that one.
Thank you. My name is Yvonne Kiondi. I'm from Kenya Nimimi campaign, and my question still on technology is, in as much as we are trying to say there is some extent in which technology can help, not necessarily eliminate, but curb the extent of corruption. Have we considered the population or the number of people that are able to access this technology, and before we bring it in, are we ready to train people for it, or we just want to implement it for the few people who will benefit and not consider the other people who might not be able to access the type of technology we're talking about? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Bridging the digital divide, I will request Basil to take that one. Yes, I'll take maybe 3 more hands, and then yes.
Yes, my name is Eric Rimberi and I'm a youth representative. And I want to ask a question, especially when it comes to issues of campaign financing, because because campaign financing has become sort of a pertinent issue, especially during electioneering period, because you find that the ruling elites spend almost billions and billions in terms of campaigning and taking their rallies like countrywide, especially the elite ruling class, and you find that part of that part of the billions that they are spending is also the one that they are using to bribe voters in order to vote for them, and then voters do not like you find that voters do not think of in terms of, if I'm voting for this person, what does this person stand for, what does this person believe in, what if this person comes, if I elect this person into office, how is he going to serve me as a citizen and my community or this country wholeheartedly. And wholeheartedly. So I think that there's a lot of corruption even in terms of campaign financing and even during elections. So I want to understand the panelists' take on that. Thank you.
Thank you. This one will allow me to ambush KYPA. Ken, I hope you've captured the question on campaign financing. All right. Yes, right at the back in purple.
Hello, I'm John.
Sorry, I can't see you, John. Oh, all right, fantastic. Okay.
I'm John. I wanted to ask a question. We have learned that technology is beneficial in exposing these corrupt officials, but I wanted to ask to inquire about the negative ways that technology is being used by these corrupt politicians. For example, we learned that there was election meddling with this Cambridge Analytica during elections in the Uhuru era. So I wanted to ask, how can we use technology to counter these moves? Because some people are in power, and because they have influence and wealth, they can manipulate this technology to getting them in more power. So that was my question, and I wanted to know, how can we counter that as youth?
It's a good question. I will request Mr. Kapkalia to attempt. Next.
My name is Valencia Aurora, from a criminologist from the University of Nairobi. I have a question based on a document I've seen today. So Sudi and Murara, they have been disqualified from getting into the US by the FBI. And I feel like DCIs are like the FBI in the US. So I ask myself, and I ask the panelists, because I heard you saying that you work with the legal team and criminology and criminal justice. So what I'm asking is very simple. Do you feel like the DCIs are doing their job for the right purposes?
Yes, thank you. I think William will respond. Yes, we can move on to this section as we close.
I'm saying we have
two more. Okay.
Hi, my name is Lena Wakarende from Precious Blood. And my question is, as we say that social media is actually, let's say, a benefit for fighting corruption, can we also say that it's an actual gateway to corruption?
A social media gateway for corruption? That's the question?
Yes.
All right. I'll request Ms. Anne Mercy to respond to that briefly. Next. If you're loud enough, you can try use the yes.
Hi, so my name is Fadil Lunya. I'm a blockchain developer. So my question goes to doesn't go to anyone. But recently during the protest, like a friend of mine, we are developing a system just to hold these leaders accountable. But telling me why the girl was abducted for just trying to come up with a system. So even if like we're trying to champion for a system that can actually hold these leaders accountable, why would I be in fear of actually, yes? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so why would I be in fear that even if I'm building this system, that I may be caught or be abducted by these leaders who, yeah.
It's a good question. Risks, I think that one will split. We'll have that covered by the Web3. You haven't had the question. Could you repeat?
Sure. So I'm saying my name is Fadil Mlinya. I'm a blockchain developer. So recently during the protest, a friend of mine was abducted. The reason is like we were building a system whereby it was supposed to hold these leaders accountable. So why would I be in fear of building a system that can hold these leaders accountable? That yes, I may build it, but at the same time, I'm building it while I'm coming with a feature. Like why would I be afraid of just building like a good system? Yeah.
Safety,
what's
security,
protecting us,
and the risks and the protections, the legal protections that exist. So that's a very good question. We'll split it. We'll start with the Basil, as well as I'll just take advantage of the legal colleagues on the panel, as well as William. William will cover the legal protections bit. Yeah. Can we take just two more? Okay. Then we'll see, because we have to move to the next session. Then you can also speak to the panelists afterwards if you have any burning question that needs to be addressed. Yes.
Hello everyone. My name is Bahati Joseph, and I'm a youth representative, and I'm not a blockchain developer. So that's why I'm asking this question. For the people like me who don't understand anything to do with blockchain, how do you guys, because the current topic is about technology, right? And someone has talked about bridging the digital gap. And for someone like me who knows nothing about blockchain, how do you intend to make it very easy for me to understand how you're going to solve issues on corruption through blockchain? And how do you intend to incentivize blockchain, this technology that you're talking about? Because must I understand blockchain and to be able to use or benefit from it, or is it only to people who understand it? That's my question.
Okay, that's a good question.
As easy as possible for us.
Thank you. It shall be answered. We do have somebody from the committee present. Last question.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Moses Ayecho. I'm a data scientist from KCA University, still studying, and also an adult education instructor. I have one question. Two panelists mentioned something very pertinent about policy and the fourth industrialization. But we do know that the biggest part of policy is the implementation. We've had very many policies geared to eradicating the unemployment menace by equipping young people with the digital skills. Where my question comes this way. Where is the disconnect? Why are we having many policies being drafted but not implemented? I'm saying that because as of yesterday, I checked data on the courses still offered by the universities, but we find that there are still traditional courses which have lost relevance in the market. Why ain't the education fraternity taking the discourses seriously and implement only offer courses which align with Industry 4.0? Thank you very much. I hope the question is clear.
Quite clear. Thank you very much, Moses. That will be addressed hopefully by Anne, Ms. Anne Mercy. All right. Let me come back to the panelists. We'll start with Mr. Basil. I know you had a number of questions coming to you. Very quickly, perhaps in 1 minute.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Basil Gilbert Ogola from the Virtual Assets Chamber of Commerce. So I'll just dive right into the 3 or 4 questions that have been shot at me. So first, Fadil asked about, for someone who's building platforms that could help, hold leaders accountable, how could they go about this in terms of the safety? So on that, Fadil, I'm thinking about blockchain's ability to preserve your privacy in a way that you don't necessarily have to have your physical identity out there, even as you try and become a whistleblower in the process. So think about zero knowledge, for example, that preserves your privacy while allowing you to verify the data from the source, that the data that you're putting out from your source. So this can be used on other use cases, not just protecting the identity of the whistleblower. It could even evolve beyond that to financial disclosures for sensitive items, and even transparent procurement, where guys in the procurement industry have to put out, or we can easily trace how the procurement negotiations went, how they end up assigning the tenders and so on and so forth. So in particularly for the safety of the whistleblower, think about utilizing zero knowledge. I know, Fadil, you understand what zero knowledge is. It's a bit complex, but I'd be willing to engage with anyone else who'd like to know more about the technology in depth, on how it works and how you are able to put out information, or how information is able to be verified without you as the end user giving out your privacy in particular. Then second, a question was asked about how to improve the access, training, and the fact that maybe few people understand this technology. So for now, I know that there are initiatives, not probably from the government sector, but from the private sector, in which different entities are trying to improve user knowledge or the understanding of Web3 platforms. We have Wycliffe with us here from A&D Forensics, who have been doing a lot of training, working with law enforcement agencies to track and trace crypto assets or money that potentially comes from fraudulent activities. So they do a lot of trainings in that front. We have communities such as the Web3 clubs that develop a lot of understanding from the technical side of it for the developers. There are talks with the India Blockchain Association. It's not an Adani deal. However, they do a lot of capacity building. They've done it for governments in the European Union successfully. And I think potentially even incorporating some of these trainings in our curriculums at different levels, we might be able to start building user knowledge or the ability of users to utilize Web3. I'm not saying that it's easy, but you at least have to have some very basic understanding of how Web3 works for you to utilize it. And on top of that, I know there have been a lot of conversations among developers on what's known as abstraction, which is, as much as possible, simplifying the technical aspects of some of the tools that are being used, be it the interface that the end user is interacting with, or so on and so forth, such that they do not need to understand really what's going in the back, but they know it's Web3, but they're able to utilize it as simply as they're utilizing most of the Web2 platforms that we've come to know. How to solve corruption using blockchain. I think someone asked that from that side. I mean, for that, I think Kakai touched on some aspects to do with that, but the sad reality with that is, if it touches on things of public interest or things that still have to go through, the guys who we've put there to represent us, then for some of these things to be even passed into bill, they are the same guys who expect them to, drive them forward. So from even a policy-making standpoint, it's kind of a hurdle if at all the policymakers, for example, either do not want to pass some of these policies, or them themselves are not educated enough on what Web3 is, because again, regulating Web3 has been a problem, given that they don't really even understand what they're regulating. They know that money is being made from here, and they're like, you know what, let's tax it first, we'll come to understand it later. So those are some of the problems that we're facing. But outside that, even without support from the public or the government side of things, like Kakai and I were talking about, what stops us from developing a blockchain platform, a parallel blockchain platform that we privately contribute towards, such that if they shut, the public broadcasting of votes, we can be able to tell by our own data that we feed into the blockchain privately, and that is, verifiable and immutable. We can also track things from our end, such that when they tell us this is how it's going, we are able to say no. The blockchain, which is an immutable platform, secure and transparent, says otherwise. So what happened? Then in terms of incentives to adapt blockchain, I'm thinking about the concept of gamification, especially for the kids or the guys who are coming, from the lower levels of education, kids. Gamification in that they are able to interact or understand blockchain by interacting with them in gamified model. Maybe a game that could help explain how at zero knowledge something works, what immutability means, and so on and so forth. Then, I think I've sufficiently answered most of the questions you had, so thank you so much for the opportunity to answer.
Before you hand over the mic, there's another question from Churchill. We are currently in 4IR, of course. A lot of bots have been created. ChatGPT has allowed customized GPTs. His friend is currently working on a customized GPT that exposes corrupt government officials. How sure how safe is he?
Yeah, again, maybe I'll fall back to what I had explained to Fadil. Maybe Churchill, whoever you are, you could meet me after this, then I could be able to explain the concept of zero knowledge and some of the privacy features that are recorded in blockchain. I could also link you to a community of developers who do a lot of work around these areas. Most notably the Web3 clubs, and Fadil is actually here. I think it's a very good first point of.
So why waste your time, interact with a bot that does not have mind like you, does not have emotions, and be mad? Let's protect our mental health, please. The other way that government misuses technology is on data misuse. If you give your information today to Safaricom, for example, you receive several messages of promotions about Betika, about SportPesa, and the rest, just to mention a few. And that is very wrong, because I'm a big proponent of something called contextual integrity. That means that if you submit your data to one party, the other party who needs to access your information has to receive your consent. And that needs to be practiced by each and every one of us. If I give you my information, if I give you my number, don't send that number or give that number to another person without informing me. That is wrong. And so contextual integrity is very important, and also it helps us curb a lot of misuse, because politicians look at such small spaces and say, and if you go to court, they will say this is something that is being done by everyone. Lastly, there is a misuse of electoral interference through hacking, especially from the constituency level to the national tally in Kenya at Bomas. And that is a space where a lot of results are being hacked Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving over to Ms. Anne Mercy.
So I had two questions. Yes. One was around why we have a disconnect between the policies and the implementation aspect. And I think I can sum that up into 3 points. One, we have a design flow where our leaders design for what they do not know. If you design in a vacuum and in silos, and you design for something that you do not understand, you are definitely going to have hitches when it comes to implementation, because again, you're designing out of context. You have no basic understanding of what is happening. A case in example is the proposed AI bill. It makes zero sense. We've not even developed AI to the point that it requires regulation, yet we are trying to make sure that we have a policy. What are we policing in the first place, right? So the second thing would be, there's very poor coordination in Kenya. These people work in boardrooms alone. There is no communication. They don't share data. So we have an MP saying this. We have the president saying that. We have us, the citizens, knowing this. So in that whole mess, we get lost in terms of implementation, because again, now that brings me to the third point. We cannot monitor anything, and it's why it's even very hard to hold our leaders accountable, because we do not have a continuity in terms of we created a policy, this is what we are supposed to achieve, these are the goals, and this is how we keep track of those goals. We just develop policies to look cool. We do not develop policies so that they can work for us. So I think that is those are the three main issues we have when it comes to translating what we have on paper and making it work for the country. The other question was around, is social media also a platform or aiding in corruption? I believe yes. I keep saying social media is an extension of who we are as a society. So what social media does, it might not necessarily be directly allowing corruption to happen, but it gives you access to people who are corrupt, and also it allows the sharing of information in a manner that allows us to be corrupt. So for example, if you want to go to a certain office and you do not know people within your circles who can help you get a favor, what do? You go online, ask munajua nani kwa hii ofisi, they give you a name, you go, pay them, and that's it. So it is an extension of what we do kwa ground. It does not necessarily directly lead to corruption, but it definitely gives us a platform to tap into the larger space of corruption. Yeah.
Wow, very well put. Thank you. Thank you very much. In terms of the design flaws and policy, I think we'll also allow KYPA to also address that as they address the issue of campaign financing. Over to you, William.
Thank you. With the first question on whether e-governance can reduce corruption, yes. This has been the main motivation for adopting e-governance. If you go back to the e-governance policy, I think dating 2002, 2003 in the Kibaki government, this was one of the motivations. And yes, it does promote, or rather it does reduce corruption in two ways. One, transparency. Remember we talked about earlier, downward and upward transparency. So downward transparency in the sense that if government adopts an open access order, that is open access to its information, we the public are able to see, again, as we were saying earlier, the Auditor General's statements, the budget appropriation statements, the various documents that are used to manage finances in our country, and we are based on this information, based on this e-government process, we are able to hold them accountable. At the same time, removing the human interface when it comes to certain public services has also enhanced integrity, because then you have removed the human element, and as we're being given the example of Moranga, they were able to increase their revenue collections just by going digital. So yes, e-governance can reduce corruption, and however, I'd insist on saying that e-governance only works to the extent that the people building these systems adopt a value-based approach. And that is, you might remember that when we started the discussion, we spoke about values. And you'll hear always people talking about people-centered approaches to technological solutions. It's based on values. It's based on what you as an individual building the back end hold as your values. Do you have integrity as a personal value? If so, then you'll translate those same safeguards onto the system. And this also again translates to the aspect of social media. While social media is a very good tool for open source intelligence and analysis, it's also a very dangerous tool for misinformation and disinformation, as has been said. The same way we have people of goodwill with integrity trying to post information that is relevant for us as the public, is the same way we have people receiving 527 shillings to say the complete opposite of what is not true. So again, even as you're engaging on the OSINT space, on the open source intelligence space, trying to post, trying to source for information, your values will still matter, and that is what will determine the integrity of your output. And this leads me also to the question around the DCI. Now, I do not have the capacity to be able to respond as to whether or not they are doing their job. However, we are safe. We can be grateful that we have security services that are keeping us safe to some extent. However, when it comes to that specific letter that has circulated about those two individuals, again, OSINT skills are very important here. Please look at that letter. Go to the original site of the institution that is allegedly being claimed to have written that letter. Look at their headers, look at their footers. Analyze their fonts previously. Analyze the current font. Go through the text. Look at the addressees. Look at the language used. It is not in the place of an American institution to have a typo in an official document like that one. So what I'm trying to say is that that letter is perceivably misinformation. If it is deliberate, it is disinformation. And again, this is why when you're sourcing information online, try and really be scrutinized. Remember, we are standing on integrity. We want to really make sure that whatever we are putting out is the truth. It's real. It's the objective truth. It does not change. It does not phase, whether now, whether 10 years later. So again, please, guys, make sure as you're engaging with information online, make sure you're able to verify. And I'm very happy to hear that we already had a project around that. On the last question around the legal protections for witness, for whistleblowing, we have the Witness Protection Agency in Kenya, which is mandated to protect institutions. And this is where also laws and policies come in. We have the Whistleblower Protections Bill, which had specific provisions providing for how whistleblowers can be protected. As in addition to the zero knowledge protocol that you can use for distributed ledgers, you can also rely, once this is passed, and this is perhaps also why we should emphasize on why a whistleblower protection should be passed. We can be able to also ensure that these same things are translated online, that this protection of the confidentiality of the person whose whistleblowing is protected, and that if a system is going to be used, that same protection is translated on the system to do that zero knowledge. At the same time, we also have the mandated institution being given powers to even acquire court orders seeking that this whistleblower is protected. So there are provisions in the law that make sure that you're protected as an individual, but of course using your operational protocols to keep your identity safe would be a first point of action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think our panel of many lawyers has done a very good job. Allow me at this juncture to invite KYPA representative just to answer those two questions very briefly. The first one was on campaign financing. The second one was on the, what did you call it? Design flows for policies. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. I think, having listened to the panelists and looked at the environment, I think this is a parliamentary setup. And therefore, you'll allow me to refer to Jennifer as the speaker of this session. Is that okay? It is not functional. So, honorable members, through the speaker, Madam Speaker, allow me to address the issue on the Campaign Financing Act and bring to the attention of the House that the Campaign Finance Act was passed in 2013 as part of the broader mechanism to manage the campaigns and use of resources in trying to convince the electorates to vote you in. But the major reason why this bill was brought in and actually passed into law was to regulate financing of political campaigns. Today, you will find an MCA spending up to around 30 million just to earn a salary of 144,000. For 5 years, if you calculate that, it doesn't sum up to even 10 million. So you fail to understand what's the inspiration behind that. This bill, this act was put into place to ensure there's transparency in our dealings during the political process. It was put in place to ensure that, we promote accountability when electing our leaders. So that as a young person, a voter, you can stand and question your member of parliament or your candidate or your aspirant. You've talked to us and you've given at least everybody 2K. And here we are about 2,000. And you've never been employed before. What is your source? You see, we're talking about corruption. Or you've been a government employee. But you're spending close to 10 or 500 a day campaigning to be an MP. So accountability. This okay? Thank you, honorable members. So this act was basically put into place for 3 reasons. That is regulate financing, promote accountability, and ensure there's transparency. But unfortunately, it has not been functional. In fact, after being passed in 2013, the act was suspended. And we were told that it was supposed to start working in 2017, after 2017 elections. 2022, we saw the same thing happening. It wasn't put into place. The biggest challenge that has been there is political goodwill. Because if you look at the act, I have it on my phone here. If you want, I'll share. If you look at the act, it is clear that there is a maximum amount that one can spend to campaign for being, to be a governor, an MCA, an MP, or a president. You cannot pass that mark. And if you pass that mark, then it becomes a question of integrity. And if this act is put into action, hiyo mitego itashika nani jamani? Honorable members, I put the question to you. If we put this act to action, who is going to be in trouble? In trouble? The members, right? So there's not been, we've not had political goodwill to ensure that this act is put into action. But I want to say, if it is action today, the biggest beneficiary will be a young person who has ambitions but do not have those resources. Provided that you have the messaging, the agenda, and a clear vision to your people, you can have your campaigns running, communicate to the people, and let them elect you based on your ideas and agendas. And the citizens, we ask for this money sometimes, and we make the members feel like if they don't give it, they'll not get the votes. So we put them in a situation where they have to. So you see, if they look at it in that way, they cannot action this act. Because minus that money, they won't be elected. Another issue that is making this act not to operate is the legal issues, legal cases. We've had legal cases around this act in court. Members of parliament or members of the political class. I don't want to say members of parliament only because you also have MCAs and governors. Members of the political space who are feeling like if this act is actionable, they will not be able to secure certain seats. They've used proxies to try derail the activation or the operation of this act through court cases. So it gets that back to political goodwill, right? And then we have funding and resourcing of institutions that oversees elections. In this case, IBC. Because anyway, at the end of the day, it is the IBC that will determine that person A spent more than what's expected. Because if we put the Finance Act into action, it is the IBC to monitor. Unfortunately, up to now, we do not have the IBC. And we are not sure if you'll have the IBC. And we are not prepared to have the IBC. And we are okay not having the IBC. So what we are saying is this. As young people, this is now a challenge. Now let me not talk as a member of KYPA, but as a young person who is also interested in this country and would like to see this country go forward. We need to put the people in place, people in power, people with authority in question to ensure that institutions of governance are operational. As we talk right now, we have constituencies without members of parliament. We have wards without members of county assemblies. We have nominations that have not been actualized because we do not have an IBC. As if that is not important, we've seen people and speculations. We are focused on how we can put a bill in Parliament to ensure that there is no live streaming of results. But again, I want to ask you, honorable members, colleague MPs, if we've been having issues of electoral irregularities and malpractice, but at that time we could be able to see the live streaming of results. Jamani nawauliza, if we do not have live streaming of results, what are you going to expect? Si itakuwa mbaya jamani. It will be bad, right? So, as colleague young people want to say, we need to step up and put the government into question. We need to step up and take our position and ask rightful questions to the right people at the right time. And this is the time. We cannot talk about doing away with live streaming of results, whereas we do not have an IBC that should be conducting those elections. Today, after the post-25th June Gen Z protest, we should be having an IBC to register these young people to be voters. Because I believe inside this house, there are aspirants, people who are interested in contesting. Is that the case? But who is going to vote you if this IBC is not constituted so that your people, your fans, your supporters can get registered? So those are the questions. And I want to appeal to all of us and Jennifer, that one of the resolutions from this conference, in this gathering, should be that the young people of this country, seated at the UN headquarters, decided that the IEBC should be reconstituted in the next 30 days. And because I said this is a parliament, I want to put the question on behalf of the Speaker that on 2nd December 2024, at the United Nations headquarters, young people from different parts of the country convened and had a robust conversation and in unison agreed that the Kenyan government should ensure that the IBC is reconstituted in the next 60 days. And I put the question, with as many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many of the contrary opinion say nay. And the ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Babu. Thank you, Babu. But you are not the Speaker of this House, so you cannot call for a vote. Thank you very much for those submissions. I think you've really clarified what the issues are around the campaign financing law. I think at this juncture, we really have to move on with the proposal. There was one more question on bridging the digital divide, but I will put the two of you together to discuss after when we're having tea. But thank you very much. I think for me, this has been one very interesting panel. I've learned so much, actually from you, the youth. It seems that you're very much engaged in these very technical and heavy issues. So I really appreciate you. First of all, kindly appreciate our panelists who really unpacked. Thank you very much for really unpacking very difficult, some difficult topics. Really also appreciate yourselves for sitting through. For sitting through and engaging very actively. So at this moment, allow me to invite my colleagues. Hope Kemama, where are you? And Denin Muchelule to take the stage as our panelists leave and join the rest of the plenary. They will be taking us through the process of adopting these recommendations that Mr. Ken is proposing, which will be discussed, debated, and agreed upon. Yeah? So to avoid any misquoting or misinformation, we'll have to agree as young people in this forum. Please take the stage, as well as the youth representatives who are coming to provide the summary. Please come forward. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Now maybe, I think now it's gone on.
Good afternoon.
Just try this one, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing? Naona mmenyamaza sana. So I want us to do a small game to ensure that everyone achangamke kidogo. So kindly could I have everyone standing? Thank you. So it's just a very simple game that's going to take us about 2 minutes. So I'll just do a brief demonstration with my colleague, Hope. So you just, one person's finger should be up, and the person next to you, so the right hand or left hand, whichever, you just look. And then the person right next to you, his hand should be this way. Yeah? I don't know if you guys have seen this game before. Yeah. So I will do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. When I say hold, and before you hold someone's hand, please seek consent. Yes. So is everyone ready? Is everyone ready? Okay, fine guys, silence.
Mic check.
So, fine, so I'm going to do. Okay, fine. But so I'm going to do a countdown from 3, 2, 1. When I say hold, everyone holds. Now,
Use your courtroom voice.
can everyone hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, I'm asking him to use his courtroom voice. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. When I say hold, that's someone who's not attentive.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll do the countdown. When I say hold, you hold. Now, every winner is going to remain standing, and the one who loses sits down, so that they are very embarrassed about it.
Okay, here we go. You're holding the finger. Snatch the finger. And then the other one takes it away as fast as possible. Okay. 1. Here we go.
3. Guys, it's 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Okay, 3, 2.
Make sure she can.
My people are doing a horrible job. Okay, fine. So 3, 2, 1. Guys, one last time, everyone stand up.
Not standing, kindly, please. Yeah.
So we're going to do it one last time. On the count of 3, you're going to hold the other person's finger. So, is everyone ready?
Yes.
3. Okay, fine, guys. Let's try again. Shh. Let's try again. 3, 2, 1. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is actually, yes, thanks to my colleague Jennifer who did session 3. She mentioned that was a fun session, but this is the fun session actually. So this session is basically involving the development of an anti-corruption action plan. And I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Denning Muchelule. I'm a project associate at the UNODC African Corruption Hub. And I have my colleague here.
Yes, thank you, Denning. Good afternoon. You have a lot of energy. This is really, really fun. So my name is Hope Kemama. I'm a project support officer at the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. And the pillar I support is the Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice Program and extending support to the anti-corruption team.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hope. So now, this session is going to be very interactive. So it's basically an interactive session that's going to involve us breaking into groups and developing an anti-corruption action plan. And this also involves basically, looking at the corruption risks and coming up with strategies that promote accountability and transparency. Now, based on that, I'm going to basically introduce my very good friend. He's called David Murigu. He's a council member at the Ethics Ambassadors Network. So he's going to do an introduction and brief overview of the Africa Youth Anti-Corruption Vision 2030. So once he comes, he'll just do his presentation, and then from there we'll basically instruct you guys how we're going to distribute into the various groups and draft this action plan. So I think you should be happy that we are creating history, and if this goes through, then you are part of it. So David, kindly. Makofi kwake, makofi.
Yeah, so good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. So I'm David Maina Murigu. I'm a council member at Ethics Ambassadors Network and UNODC. And so I'm going to give a brief introduction of the African Youth Anti-Corruption 2030 Vision. So last year, actually around a time like this, youth leaders from different African countries conveyed here at the Union, not in this room, but in another room. And so they came up with this document that sometime later we are going to share with you, named the African Youth Anti-Corruption 2030 Vision. So allow me to be quick and brief. I'm gonna read through the document. It's not so long. I'm gonna be quick so that we can continue with the group discussions. So we, the young people of Africa, play a key role in ensuring the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The world has less than 7 years left to achieve them. Corruption hinders greatly the achievement of these fundamental global goals. The document, prepared under the auspices of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and its GRACE, GRACE is the Global Resource for Anti-Corruption Education and Youth Empowerment, under the GRACE initiative, outlines the African Youth Anti-Corruption 2030 Vision. It highlights the critical role of young Africans in countering corruption to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, by 2030. The document reflects the outcomes of discussions held during the youth event dubbed as UNCAC Belongs to Youth, African Youth 2030 Vision on Anti-Corruption, and outlines 5 priority areas for action. So yeah, I'm gonna need each and every one of you to be attentive here on the key points that were discussed. Number 1, just a minute. Number 1 was unemployment. Number 2, education. Number 3, weak governance. Number 4, crime and violence. Number 5, health. Are we together up to that point? Are we together? Okay, thank you so much. So allow me to briefly highlight the points that were discussed under each priority area. So number 1, by 2030, no youth should be subjected to opportunity for pay. Priority access and favors will be reduced to the minimum when seeking for employment. Also, before I forget, kindly allow me to let you guys know why we are doing this. So this was discussed within the African scope, okay? We know how Tanzania does their things is different from how Kenya does their things, right? And so whatever we are going to be discussing in the next, what should I call it? Okay, whatever we are going to be discussing next is basically under the Kenyan scope, okay? So kindly listen to what cuts across Africa and highlight and note what is not highlighted that you know affects within unemployment within your country, Kenya, okay? Thank you. So, number 2, by 2030, recruitment and procurement processes in public and private sectors are transparent, fair, and have outlined accountability processes. Number 3, by 2030, there should be a favorable economic and financial environment for youth enterprises. Bribery in business will no longer be an issue. Number 2, under education. By 2030, government shall have done reforms in the education sector to ensure that ethics and integrity classes are taught from a young age on and mainstreamed throughout the education system. Number 2, by 2030, no one will exchange sex or other bribes to get good grades in school. Number 3, by 2030, institutions of learning shall enforce strict adherence to the code of conduct to ensure that bribe is eliminated in the institutions. Number 4, under education, by 2030, government shall strengthen education institutions in their countries to deal with irregularities in the education sector that breed corruption. Number 3, priority number 3 is weak governance. By 2030, we, the youth of Africa, want corruption to be defined as a crime against humanity for all UNCAC state parties. Number 2, we want to see youth represented in leadership and their active participation in governance. Number 3, people who show integrity will feel supported and protected both in the public and private sector. Number 4, we will have strong and independent institutions to implement and enforce laws. Number 5, we will have public officials with integrity, and we will feel protected and supported by them. Number 6, the last one under weak governance, all African youth will have access to digital platforms, providing access to information that will aid the fight against corruption. Priority area number 4, crime and violence. By 2030, we will have strong institutions that will hold everyone accountable for their crimes. The anti-corruption laws will actually be a form of deterrence, and there will be no more impunity. Number 2, by 2030, we are looking forward to equal distribution of resources to reduce the poverty that pushes people over the edge and produce the tendencies of committing crimes such as corruption. Number 3, under crime and violence, in 2030 or by 2030, more youth voices will join the fight against corruption. Lastly, under health, it's the top priority number 5. By 2030, corruption will no longer prevent any young African from accessing free quality health care resources with regards to sexual reproductive health, medicine, therapy, and vaccines. Number 2, by 2030, no young African should be a victim of drug abuse due to issues such as misinformation, forceful use, peer pressure, etc. By reading the corruption connected to misinformation of various drugs in promoting the use of these drugs and lack of transparency, promoting the use of these drugs. Lastly, under health, public sector officials will stop engaging in corruption, aiding the trafficking and procurement of drugs. Yeah, so that's it under those top 5 priority areas, and I'm going to hand it back to you so that the discussion can go on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. So Dunning and I would like to request for the activity to commence now. We are short of time, so we're going to limit it to 15 minutes. And what this activity is going to entail is group discussions for the 15 minutes. And we want to divide you into groups of 6. So this will cover each priority area that David had shared, though we will come to the groups and remind you of the topic that you are going to discuss. We have 5 rows, and we need 6 groups. So we are counting the first row from here all the way to the other end as group 1. The second row will be from here all the way to the other end as group 2, all the way to group 5. However, we also need to form group 6. So we're requesting that each row delegates 3 members who will join group 6 separately, if that makes sense. In case you haven't understood, just let me know and I'll explain again. If you've understood, I want to proceed to now telling you how we're dividing the sections. So this first section is going to have group 1 in the first few rows and group 2 in the rows behind that. The middle section here will have group 3 and 4, 3 in the first few rows and 4 in the rows behind. And then we will have the 2 remaining groups on this last section. First few sections can be
Group 1 unemployment. Group 2, education people. Good. Group 3, where are you? Governance systems. Group 3, this is where Ken Babu's recommendation comes in. Group 3. Group 4.
Crime and violence.
Crime. Group 4. Group 4 over here on my right. Group 4, please raise your hand so that your members find you. I think you're in 2 different areas. Can you guys move there? Group 4, move there. Yes, keep raising your hands. Group 5, where are you? Group 5? Okay, Group 5, there they are. Please join them.
I do so.
Group 5?
I do so.
Critical areas for Kenya that are not in the 5 groups
Group 6.
that young people would need to see addressed.
Huh?
For example, campaign financing. That's not in the African Youth Vision, but it's a Kenyan priority. So come here.
Yes.
Yeah, group 6, just come get up on the podium and come around me. Good. Do I have everyone from group 6? Especially if you know you have a key issue that's a priority for Kenya and it was not in the African Youth Vision. Please come here. This is the moment we need to make sure that this is a Kenyan document by Kenyan young people. Please come. Fantastic.
So there could be a proposal that's not covered in this paper. I think we can start with.
as probably why to register a company. So like a policy, if you're a youth going to register a company, then you need to pay $1,000. So such incentives for setting up the company and tax incentives and all of that tax incentives that come with running a company. This thing also extends to bidding for government when they're asking for things like bid bonds of 20 million and all those things that only favor guys who have the low generational wealth or guys who are. So for instance, same thing for you to set up a business and they want to participate in such activities. The barrier of entry is so high. So I can't even bid for government tender because the bid bond is like 100 million. Where will I get 100 million? So there needs to be like an inclusive way of allowing a youth who has a very awesome project to build. And for that specific, I gave an example of venture software space, and you'll find that you have a team of skilled software developers who want to build a solution. And let's say IBC is advertising for Newton, but they're putting a billboard of 100 million PhDs. The person who affords 100 million PhDs does not have the skills to build that solution. And the people who have the skills to do that solution. So what usually ends up happening is a foreign French company ends up getting that application go outside. But if they do it, some
services strategies for asking around economic stability and fiscal responsibility, amending the legislation to nullify any financing support administration for the same year has been vetted and passed and laid out in the law. Number 2, implementing policy any new domestic and foreign debt requiring public participation. Simply, that's what it is. Then capping amounts for specific budget line items to ensure value for money all government procurement. So that we're not buying pens for, how much is it? 5,000. We're not buying wheelbarrows for. You guys are too young. Do you remember? Oh, okay. Yes, so that's introducing capping amounts of specific budget items. Just for an example, we've seen this with markets where they have a big list and contracts getting to the market value for certain items that are needed in government operations, whether it's stationary, etc. Okay? Abolishing the constituency development fund in here for the members of parliament, conducting and publishing a national debt annual audit. So, publishing, auditing national debts. Okay, so that I think is what the young people wanted to do. How much do we owe and who do we owe? Do you understand? And what are the processes? What are the procedures to pay that? On corruption. So there was a whole section on corruption. So they proposed withdrawal of some proposed amendments that were going to weaken anti-corruption mechanisms to address that. Then they introduced the introduction of legislation for a mandatory jail term of not less than 5 years for any individual convicted of looting public funds. So they are saying convicted, mandatory, not optional, where you can pay a fine, you should go to jail for a minimum of 5 years. Young also proposed prohibiting any citizen with a criminal record or accused of corruption from holding public office in any capacity. The others are around giving EACC the powers to prosecute, as opposed to now we have the prosecution dealing with prosecution and EACC and ECI investigating. Then there was a proposal to conduct lifestyle audits for all public schools. Proper lifestyle audits, not the self-declaration they give when they want to visit 2 years of how much I own, but proper lifestyle audits by external party to see what do you own, what does everyone around you own, and can you justify your wealth. You cannot then claim by mistakes. So that's part of asset recovery. EACC does this, but they do this based on intelligence. Okay? I hope you understand it. So here the recommendation was to have any person in the public. You have 10 minutes. Any state officer in the government. Alright, these are some of the key ones. Let me leave the team to discuss. I'm sure you remember others came up. But it's over to team leader.
There's a contract for I
I wish you kept the time if you were there, how many times? I don't believe that you from close all the way more than 2 minutes. That was only the parties the whole country and it's a big amount of states. It's not a all country.
Protein first.
very intense. Honorable Ken Babu. Just a moment. We do have a surprise guest who's come to visit and say hi. I think most of you know him, or some of you know him, but allow him to introduce himself and say hi to the Kenyan youth.
Vijana wa Kenya, oye! It's lovely to see you all. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Dr. Stephen Jackson. I'm the United Nations Resident Coordinator here in Kenya, but I've already seen a lot of faces around the room that I recognize. I really apologize for interrupting what looked like very concerted and vital and important discussions about how to combat corruption. And it seems to me that UNODC deserves a lot of credit for having realized just how important youth are to the fight against corruption. They deserve a lot of credit, except if we didn't know that that was important already, you did actually tell us that quite loudly over the summer a few months ago in the streets of Nairobi and elsewhere. The Gen Z were loud and proud and insistent on fighting corruption, strengthening governance, really strengthening accountability. And I, for one, was incredibly inspired by that, and it is amazing to see that spirit continuing in this hall today. We know that corruption is both wrong and also destructive. It goes without saying that it is wrong morally and ethically. But what's equally important is the damage that it does to Kenya's sustainable development journey. Depending on who you believe, it's costing anywhere between 5 and 10% of Kenya's development growth every year, and it's costing us very large sums of treasury that could be better put to educating our kids, keeping them healthy, creating jobs, and generally ensuring the future of the country. So the discussions that you're having today, I really want to thank you for them. I really want to encourage you to continue to fight to end this scourge of corruption that is holding this great country back. Keep with the spirit and the courage and the openness that you all had over the summer. But now the hard work is there. It's one thing to protest and demand change. Now we have to find ways to help the country deliver on that change. So we're counting on you. Asanteni sana na kwaherini.
As you are.
Pleasure to put a face to emails. Thank you, and for supporting them, and relating with them so that they feel a bit seeing represented.
Not at all.
Something.
you.
representative. Then we may all return to our seats. And I'm requesting the team to project the recommendations. Hapana, si mapangale.
Mambo imechemka.
Okay, let's hurry up.
Imechemka mambo.
We will mute your mics if you continue in that manner. Fantastic. I think we have everyone on board. Group 1, 2, 3. Where is 4? Is she group 3? This one count is group 3. Group 4. Group 4, where are you? Let me show you how to send it. Okay. Just go to Teams. Okay, I think we'll invite group leader for team 1 to start. Calling the meeting to order, honorable delegates. In a few years, you will be seated in spaces like this. You'll be required to carry yourself with decorum, as well as patience, so that we finalize. As the law students know, some of the processes for passing treaties and conventions are very lengthy. Even general resolutions of the General Assembly. So this is also practice. Let's finalize, let's get consensus, adopt, hopefully, and then we have presentation on the 9th. Over to you, Group 1 team leader.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Yes, I have had a privilege of leading a very nice group, Group 1. We were discussing on unemployment. People have given us very, very good suggestions, and also they were very important when it comes to unemployment and youths in this country. So I'll go very fast because there are so many things. So the first one was on startups and the startup bill. How do we ensure that this startup bill does go through, because it's already in Parliament, it has already passed the Senate and in Parliament. And this startup bill, how do we ensure that it's favoring all of us in the sense that it is giving the youths who are trying to start up businesses an upper hand, like reducing their taxes so that they don't have to pay so much taxes for, yet they do not have even the money to pay for those taxes. We also had on the same with tenders. How do youths get to be awarded tenders without paying so much money, and how are they going to be awarded tenders based on their merits and or their skills? How do we have skill-based awarding of tenders? Because you find that youths have very good skills, especially when it comes to IT, and they're not given the opportunity because they do not have maybe the money to acquire that tender, yet they have the skill. Yet we end up acquiring some companies in Europe or in the US or anywhere else in the world to come and do the work that we have skills for in this country. So how do we ensure that that is done very well? So we recommended that bids and tenders may be made in a way that they favor the common youth, so that they are able to get the same. We also talked of agriculture and farming. How do we ensure that youths go back to make agriculture more profitable? How do we ensure that we make it more profitable? We have our own marketing, we have our own farming of our products and sell them. How do we ensure that the policies that are coming on in Parliament and with our leaders are favoring the agricultural sector, so that we are able to put the knowledge that we have earned from universities into practice and ensure that our products in this country, because it's a very rich country with so much resources, how do we put these resources to use by ensuring that youths go back to agriculture and farming, so that they are able even to create jobs for themselves and others, and in the process ensure that they have impacted their own communities. So we also had another suggestion which I loved very much, and all of us as a group agreed that it was very essential, that is financial literacy. How do you ensure that youths in this country are aware of how to use funds, that in the job that you are, in the company that you're starting, how do you ensure that you're using that money in the correct way? So we need to start financial literacy all the way from the little ones in school to secondary schools to high schools and to primary schools, secondary schools and universities, so that we can ensure that youths, when they're coming out here and earning, getting jobs and also starting their own business, they are able to utilize the money that they earn very well in the way that it is able to impact their businesses, and also at the same time they are able to generate wealth from that through saving. They should be taught through they should be taught saving and also other ways of generating more wealth from the profits they are earning or from the remuneration they get from their employers. So we also had policy making. How do we ensure that we noted that all these changes are able to be presented and are able to be put into practice if we have good policy makers? How do we ensure that our own youth are in those boardrooms to make these decisions on our behalf? We should not let other people who do not understand the hassle that we go through as youths to determine how we are going to live our lives. So we need to be able to vote in our own, so that they can go there and present our views as they are, and they are able to give our problems for consideration and give solutions that impact us as youths. So we also had also other recommendations on job portals. So I've been told my time is almost up, so I'll just read through them very quickly. So we had on creating job portals so that youths are not able to, they stop tamarking a lot. We have one portal that is able to give information on jobs, that are available for youths. We also had the issue of innovation, vocational training. We also add integrity in employment by ensuring that employers are pay their good remuneration to their employees. We also had financial empowerment. We had we also discussed on how to take the conversation to the grassroots. How do we ensure that information of these employment opportunities, introduction of these, how to create businesses is taken back to our villages where we come from. So we also said awareness is very key to ensure that we cover unemployment in this country. We also discussed on employers. How do we ensure that we call employers to the table and ask them what, because sometimes we may blame the employer so much and forget that we also have our faults as employees. So how do we bring the employers on the table and ask them what is wrong with the employment sector? What can we do? What can be done to ensure that the employment sector is able to deliver and pay their employees well? So we should also ask the employers what problems they are going through with the policies and also with the policies that are made by our governments. We also discussed on how to ensure that we have hourly remuneration. That was also another very key point, to ensure that we become a country that is able to pay its employees on hourly basis in a way that we can ensure that I can go to work and work for 3 hours, excuse another person to work for another 3 hours, and then go to other business, create another opportunity, so that we can have a very fast-moving country that is able to sustain the development that we have. Because you find that unga has gone very high, but we are not able to buy it. Why? Because we are not able to manage our employment, how we pay our employees, and how money will be brought back to the people, so that they are able to buy the unga and the sukari that has gone very high. So when we have a bill that supports hourly payment or hourly remuneration of employees, we find that I can go to work for 3 hours and leave another person to come work for 3 hours. Those 3 hours that I'm not in work, I'm doing something else that will help me generate more income for myself. So we also had the issue of internship and apprenticeships. So we discussed that internship should be a learning process, but a learning process that is paid. Because you find that most people go for internships and they are they do a lot, but they are not paid. You find, like, for example, the lawyers and the doctors, they take almost 7 years in school. That is 7 years of your life. By the time you're coming to the career field, you're already very mature. So you need to be encouraged and also given more. Given more. You're also paid well, so that the internship and also learning, so that you're able to empower yourself. So let me read this. Sorry, just a minute. Let me read this one very quickly. So promote that one I've said. Encourage innovation, support volunteerable groups like women and the minorities, and also ensure that we support them. Also improve job opportunities and. Yes, and also we posed one question to all of us in this room, that how do we ensure that we bring in youths with disabilities in this conversation? How do we ensure that youths in disabilities are brought into this conversation of unemployment, and even in all the areas that we are going to discuss today? Because you find that youths with disabilities are left out, and they are not, their concerns are not taken care of. So let us ensure that we do all that. That is all from me. I've rushed through it, but I thank the first group so much for being very active. Thank you so much, everyone.
Round of applause. Round of applause for group one. That was very good. I challenge you, members of group one. There was a proposed youth bill some time back, and I think it failed. And key among the issues that were to be addressed were the price of certain documents when applying for jobs, or the requirements, if need be, removal of that. There was a question of paid internships. I think that was a discussion for a very long time. So our young parliamentarians are here. We can start that conversation again. But thank you very much. We've captured, I think, for group one, does item 1 to 9 capture everything you discussed? All those in favor say aye. Perfect. Let's move to group 2.
Very well. Very good evening to all of you. My name is Ambassador Simon from Emerging Leaders Foundation. I had the privilege of moderating group 2, which discussed the priority area for education. And in the spirit of a whole government approach, I want to give this opportunity to our lead rapporteur to give a summary of our discussion. Welcome, David.
My name is David. On education, we are looking at four major thematic areas that Africa and Kenya also in particular needs to address. The first one is governments shall have done reforms in the education sector, and where ethics and integrity classes are to be taught from a young age and mainstreamed throughout the whole education system. That the second one, no one will exchange sex or other bribes to get good grades in school. The third one is institutions of learning shall enhance strict adherence to the code of conduct to ensure that bribery is eliminated in all institutions. The fourth one is strengthening the education institutions in their country to deal with irregularities in the education sector that breed corruption. So, on the second goal, on ensuring that there will be no sex exchange or other bribes to get good grades in school, Group 2 had this as their resolution on integrating sexual reproductive health rights with ethics and integrity awareness to curb no sex and bribes for grades. We also had integration of blockchain technology to strengthen education institutions in Kenya to deal with irregularities in systems of education. We also had a resolution and a proposal on consolidation of all bursary funds and education fund grants into one system so that they can be under one government agency, and the government agency shouldn't be politicized. We have this case or this scenario in Kenya where, for example, all bursaries are being different bursaries are being distributed by different politicians, and probably they mismanage all these bursaries and all that, which is a way of encouraging corruption. So if there is a way that these funds, the government education grants and the bursaries, whether at the county level and the national government, be streamlined and be consolidated into one fund under one government agency, which is not a politicized agency. We also have introduction of electronic financial management systems to track the utilization of resources. We also had making learning relevant by incorporating cultural concepts in ethics and integrity from our small kids, from whether it's nursery all the way to primary, secondary schools, where we can incorporate various aspects of culture that we've probably kept aside for some time in our curriculum and in relation to ethics and integrity. We also have that idea can also be reinforced with the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development should introduce a curriculum that incorporates ethics and integrity in education and education systems. On sub-theme 1, we had said that by 2030, governments should have done reforms in education systems and introduced classes on ethics and integrity. And I don't think this has really been implemented as at now. We also have whether there is a way we can curb irregularities in the education system, for example, by introducing technology in school placement, for example, the high school and university placement. I know one may say, for example, that yes, they are using technology right now, but we are proposing a way that, for example, if a child is placed, for example, is placed in the Starehe Boys Center, or all members of the public, for example, can access such a portal or such an information center where we may have other people of well-wishers and sponsors. Thank you. Well-wishers and sponsors are accessing such a portal, and they may, for example, offer themselves to sponsor a needy student who had, for example, been called at the Starehe Boys Center, but wouldn't have turned up, and that position, for example, that slot ends up being corruptly given to another well-up person. Yes, we had other points, but we'll probably share all that as time goes by.
All right, thank you. Just a reminder, we'll also share this summary with everybody who was here. As long as we have your email address, we'll share for any additional inputs if you have. Please don't leave. We're almost done. For those who are trying to walk out, we see you. Let's move on to the next group. Quickly, please.
All right, thank you very much. These are the deliberations and the recommendations from Group 3. So we decided to prioritize and highlight and also bring out the sports industry in terms of improving governance. And some of our recommendations include increasing the budget for sports, not only in terms of pay for athletes, but infrastructure and construction of stadiums and ensuring that these projects are finished. Because as of right now, we have 6 unfinished stadiums in 6 different counties and 2 that need refurbishing. And we believe that that is a flaw in governance that can easily be corrected. As we know, sports is a cash cow for Kenya, so we thought that would be important. Then number 2, we have public participation. Yes, public participation is one of the key principles of the Constitution of Kenya, but we suggest that there should be a legislation for for public participation, the due process and the quantitative and qualitative threshold of this process should also be highlighted, giving youth the platform to express themselves and equivalently participate in creation of policies and holding our leaders accountable. We also decided to focus on access to information, that is to say functionality of the e-citizen, and providing an access to information, including translating different government documents and reforms to local languages, creation of awareness, and then also coming up with a GPT that is able to highlight and produce information on unfinished government projects, government expenditure, and our national debt burden. This will help hold our institutions accountable and enable us to progress towards good governance.
Okay.
We also discussed giving our institutions more power and holding them accountable in the same accord. For example, creating awareness on the role of the EACC in following up on cases of corruption, and also giving them a prosecutorial mandate to be able to prosecute perpetrators of corruption. We further discussed revision of policies to make them dynamic, specific, and precise. This was from a perspective that a lot of cases of corruption go unnoticed or go unaccounted for due to gray areas that are found in, let's say, the Constitution or the legislations. And with revising of these, accommodating for the nuances in global trends such as cybersecurity, AI, and other technological advances, we can be able to achieve better governance. Then we also accounted for commending good
30 seconds.
We also accounted for commending good ethics and integrity among civil servants, and we recommend that assets from corruption should be redirected to public development projects, and publicizing cases of poor governance with the specifics, so that we're able to show the citizens that they're being heard and that these actions of corruption are not going unpunished. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Group 3. Group 4.
Group 4. Sorry. I'll be very quick.
Thank you.
We were discussing about crime and violence, and our first recommendation was employment of the youth, because it will reduce idleness by a very big margin, and idleness and being broke is the major reason why we are engaging in crimes, as we are looking for a source to feed and have a shelter over our roof. Number 2, involving people more, because unheard people can do anything to get attention. For example, most of the time, even with the Al-Shabaab, these are people who are unheard and they're looking for different ways to voice out their opinions. So I'm not saying we should include an Al-Shabaab, but I think we should listen more to people and include them in public participation, in passing policies and passing laws. Our third point was on sponsoring and funding youths to do businesses. The startup bill, we should ensure that it is being implemented such that the conditions for doing businesses and startups are conducive for the young people to do things that will give them income and avoid engaging in crime. The other thing is drug and alcohol abuse. Nowadays, drug is no longer used because someone is depressed. We are using drugs for fun. And at the end of the day, they end up leading you to do some crime or engaging in violence. So we should curb this and also check on our mental health. The next point was raising the social status of the poor in slums and in ghettos, such that they are also able to access things like education, health, civil services, that they do not have to engage in crime and corruption and violence in order to access these services. The other one was empowering the society morality gods like churches, mosques, and schools. I'm sure most of us here, for some reason, you learned that stealing is bad from a church, or rather the school, or rather the mosque, or where we worship. So we should stop condemning these institutions, accept that they play a role in fighting crime and violence. We should empower them, support them, so that morality is learned from a very young age. And in that sense, when we were young, we used to study the social skills, and now they are no longer taught in schools anymore.
30 seconds.
The other one was protection of whistleblowers through making policies. There are 3 bills right now currently ongoing, but they have not officially been passed. The other one is criminalizing politicians who use goonship in the name of security. Youths are engaging in crime and violence as a form of a political CV. So we should criminalize that. The other one is strict enforcement and adherence to the rule of law. White-collar crimes need to be publicized more and called out, not just through words, but through actions. Ensure you suspend from office all those who have been accused of crime until they are proven innocent.
Yes.
Then, almost done, controlling holders of arms and weapons. Wealth should not be the only consideration when giving people arms. And then also, the people who hold arms legally should be undergoing regular psychic tests, because they are emotionally unstable and they end up misusing the weapons. On femicide, we need to stop justification of criminals and understanding criminals. The reason does not matter. The point is that you committed a crime and you need to be held accountable. And through that, we reintroduce death penalty for first-degree crimes. And the last one is government and NGOs should conduct civic education on genders to kill the male superiority thing. That is one of the things that is killing our society and encouraging some of our genders to engage in crime and violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to health. Health, I think you have very few interventions, so very quickly. Do you have a health representative? Oh, okay. All right, so, oh, here she is. Yes, please proceed quickly.
Good evening. In the interest of time, I will read the pointer and what we came up with. So I'll do that for the first 3 and then brush through the last 2. So the first one says, by 2030, corruption will no longer prevent any young African from accessing free, quality healthcare resources with regard to sexual reproductive health, medicine, therapy, and vaccines. And what we came up with was implementing an e-procurement system backed by blockchain to ensure that all transactions are traceable. The second one is by 2030, no young African should be a victim of drug abuse due to issues such as misinformation, forceful use, peer pressure, etc. And what we came up with was creating an open source intelligence program to provide information to all users and consequently fact check the same information. The third pointer being public sector officials will stop engaging in corruption, aiding the trafficking and procurement of drugs. And we came up with the issue of creating an open data system with barcodes to ensure accountability of all medicine. Just to read the other 2, to create or rather have a centralized and independent medical record system to trace drug prescription and track all patients' medical progress. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think because of time, for the other interventions we will share. Sorry, group leader, I see you here. We will share, allow us to close for today. But this is the beginning of a big conversation. We hope you'll continue to be engaged. We have tea served outside for those who would like to have some tea. We will, yeah, we will share this via your either group representatives or directly to you on email, because some handwritings are not very legible. But yeah, we'll share this. Please feel free to comment, and then you will nominate who will present this to the national government on the 9th, all right? We will reach out the same way we reached out for participation on the 9th. Please participate. We hope to have sustained engagements throughout. We will come to Mashinani for those who've asked about grassroots engagement. We'll do as many activities as need be to ensure that there's meaningful, the word is meaningful engagement of young people. Thank you very much. It's been my absolute pleasure. My name is Jennifer Gidu. I am an advocate as well. I have been doing this work for a very long time, especially youth work, and I'm very happy with the discussions we've had today. Asanteni sana and travel home safe. Thank you.
Share like
I'll share
the next section.
Of course, I'll invite you. If you haven't registered, please register. If you know somebody who hasn't registered,